Hello and welcome back yet again to NHB Retro, where we have yet another TRS-80 out here in the garage today. And the astute among you may have noticed that this is not another TRS-80 Model 3, like that wonderful machine that we just finished working on, but rather a TRS-80 Model 4, which is a similar but different machine. It was the follow-on to the 3. And unfortunately, with this one, I have made for myself some new content. In other words, I messed it up. So let's see if we can get a shot down here. I think I got a little overconfident in thinking that these machines always come apart so easy, just like the Model 3s that I've been working on. And I did that. I snapped the end of the tube off, which was heartbreaking, and leaves this machine in a state that I'm going to need to do a tube swap in order to get the display back up and working. So that is on my list of things to do. In the meantime, this machine has some other things about it that need to be addressed. Number one is that it's fairly filthy inside. Number two is that the keyboard seemed to have some issues. So I'm going to try to address some of those issues while I wait for the replacement tube that I ordered for the tube swap to come in. And let's get on with looking at those issues right now. Okay, so as I look at these other issues besides the display to address with the Model 4, obviously I'm going to run into the issue that without a display I can't see how things are going. So my plan is to pull the display back off of this Model 3 right here, and I believe it'll just work on the Model 4, and so that should at least allow us to get to the point where we can test things and see the results. So let's get this Model 3 pulled apart and get the display moved over and just validate my assumption that will work. Alrighty, I've got a DOS Plus diskette in the Model 4. We're hooked up to the Model 3 display, and we can see that it does indeed boot into DOS Plus. Okay, so now we can kind of move forward with the repairs, looking into especially the keyboard and taking a closer look at the diskette drives, obviously, and then of course there's going to be some refas in that power supply. So let's get moving on some of this stuff. Okay, so we've got the keyboard screws removed. Let's take this bezel off and just kind of see what we're dealing with here. Oh yeah, okay, disgusting. Yeah, there's been some mice living in and around this machine for a while. That is disgusting. Okay, so step one is going to be to get the vacuum cleaner out and start cleaning this keyboard up. Alrighty, and with everything out of the case, except for the motherboard, the actual computer itself, but with everything else out, you can see that it's dirty for sure, but it's way less mousy than I had feared. I'm guessing just that one or two little collections of mouse poop underneath the keyboard was all that it had time for, because I don't see like any big signs of nests or anything like that. The disk drives look pretty good as well. So yeah, let's just get in here with a little bit of simple green and get the case cleaned up. And I think we can actually start at least partially reassembling this to the point where we can maybe do some testing with the keyboard, etc. So let's get on with that. Alrighty, here is that keyboard with all the keys removed. Those are going to be going into a nice warm bath with probably a light bleach detergent in there. I already went ahead and scrubbed, believe it or not, this keyboard to get most of the filth off already. The places where you see a lot of missing paint, that's where most of the crud had built up and obviously had started to degrade the paint, so that came off when I was scrubbing it. But yeah, otherwise it looks okay to me. I was afraid there would be even worse corrosion. So I really want to get this plugged back in and tested, but realistically I need to do the recapping of the power supply, and also well, while I'm in there, take a look at the disk drives, since those are all in the way of putting the keyboard back in. Let's go ahead and do that, and we'll get the rest of the case cleaned out at the same time. All right, while the keys are getting a soaking, which they've needed for, it looks like, quite some time, I'm going to go ahead and get the power supply removed and replace the reefa caps while we're in here, and just because it makes the next step of removing the drive cage a little bit easier. So let's get that done right now. And here's a quick look at that power supply on the bench. You can see it's just a sort of typical Aztec power supply. This one does have 3 individual reefas that we're going to go ahead and replace. Usual drill. Let's get that done. And just like that, we've got 3 more reefas out of action, and hopefully some more long-lived components in their place. So let's get on to, I guess, looking at the drives next on that machine. Okay, as the next step in looking into what can be done about this keyboard, I've hooked up enough stuff, basically the power supply and the keyboard and the monitor, and I've gone through and pressed every key on the keyboard and made a list of the ones that do not work, and boy, there are a bunch of them. So this is going to be interesting. I think this is going to kind of suck. So my plan is to go ahead and do one of these. I'll walk through with you guys and show you the process, just to see how bad it really is. And then I'll make a decision on what to do next. Hopefully it really isn't as bad as I'm thinking it will be, but we'll find out. Alrighty, and here we have key switch number 1 out of the machine, out of the keyboard. Boy, it was, I wouldn't say it was hard, it was just extremely fiddly, and a lot of these plastic parts seem, extremely delicate, and I'm sure are very, 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 very easy to snap. In any case, what we're looking at here is for each key that does not work, we'll have to remove it from the keyboard, disassemble it. We can see here that each one of these consists of a little plastic plunger that the key attaches to, a rubber plunger on a spring, which gives the key the springiness, and underneath that, if you focus, we've got our classic little carbon pad, conductive carbon pad, that should bridge those contacts when the key is pressed. Sorry if the focus isn't very good here. So what we're going to have to do is clean that out and reassemble this and test and see if that indeed gets key number 1 back into action. And if it does, then I'll kind of have to make, well, either way, I'll have to make a decision then on what to do next. There are other options, and this is looking like quite a bit of work at this point. Let's just see how successful we are with the first one, though. Okay, and here we have the keyboard all reassembled. To be honest, it kind of snuck up on me. I didn't film as much as I probably should have, just because I kept thinking I was going to give up at any moment. I ended up just taking out every single key that wasn't working, just the way that I showed you, taking all of them apart, putting all of them in the ultrasonic cleaner, and just letting it go to town with some simple green. And I kind of expected that to just have so many failures, key switches I couldn't get working, that I would just give up and buy the quite lovely aftermarket Model 4 keyboard that exists. But this one just, the keys kept working. There were a couple that were kind of stubborn that I had to clean a little bit with some steel wool, but yeah, they all seem to work. So the one thing that is remaining on the keyboard is the reset switch, which, as we can see, has seen better days. Let's see if we can get a view of the back of it here without causing too much mayhem. Oh, good God. Yeah. So, okay. So let's buzz that off there and just see what we can see about that switch. Okay, there we have the reset switch out. It is some flavor of early 80s Alps key switch. It is fantastically dirty. Let's see if just running this through a fairly mild ultrasonic cleaning will get the job done, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Okay, and let's see if our cleaned up switch plays the role. Sure feels much better than it used to, but we can see that it's not resetting the computer. So I have a plan B for this. It is in the mail, so let's move on to, I think, finally looking at those disk drives. And here's my hopefully solution to the reset switch problem. I found that you can still buy these very, very similar, I believe they're 12 by 12 centimeter momentary contact switches from Alps. And these, while they have a slightly different cap style, and obviously the color is wrong, I was able to take one of these apart like this, and then I took apart the non-working original switch, which incidentally looks like this inside. Like, yeah, I'm not really sure why it doesn't work anymore, sir. Anyway, as we can see, even though it has a different top to it, the rest of it is identical. So what I can do is take this top and this colored plunger and this clear window, which hopefully I can do something to make that a little bit more clear again, and then just switch it onto one of the new switch bodies, and we should be ready to go. So that was a lucky happenstance. They probably do still make, or maybe they do, I don't know, I have no idea. Maybe they still make the ones with the orange caps, but I didn't find them right away, and these are interchangeable, so yeah, that worked out well. And there's one little last touch that I want to take care of here. This is something that I touched on briefly in one of my previous videos on the Model 3, but it may have some significance here. And that is this. you'll see that there used to be a rubber band tied here, and then it would go up here, and it would sort of retain this wiring harness. This is the same as, here's a Model 3 with the same thing, and my other Model 3 is exactly the same. So I suspect this was done in the factory, even though it looks kind of janky and ad hoc. And my suspicion is that that sort of serves to ensure that that wiring harness doesn't get hooked up on the back of the CRT neck right there, and that you don't do what I end up doing, which was break that off of the monitor that goes with this machine. So long story short, I'm going to restore this rubber band system here to retain these cables. And there is my version of the rubber band hack installed. It's relatively, I feel like it's relatively similar to the original, and hopefully that will prevent any future issues. Okay, so let's move on to what's next. And finally taking an actual look at the drives, and these don't look too bad. These are, let's see if I can, these are just your standard Texas peripherals, essentially copies of the Tandem TM100s. Yeah, and these all look perfectly, both of these drives look to be in great shape. Let's see, all I'm going to do, I will go ahead and clean them with a cleaning disc. Both of these drives, the controller board here is held on with these plastic rivets. I don't want to break those, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to grease the rails by using the access plate at the bottom. And then they should be ready to go back into the machine. So let's just get that done and get them all both mounted back up into the machine. And so here we have the drives all reassembled in their case, their little sub-assembly here, ready to go back into the computer for final testing. So with the machine all more or less put back together, sans the top and all of that nonsense, I was able to retest the keys, and annoyingly, the keys that I had originally cleaned by hand, i.e. the ones before I had just bit the bullet and took the rest of the non-working ones off and used the ultrasonic cleaner to clean them. The ones that I had cleaned by hand largely don't work now again. Luckily, there's only a few because I got tired of that pretty early on. So it's just a few of the number keys. I'm going to pull the keyboard back out one more time, take those keys out, take them apart, get them cleaned, and hopefully that brings us back to a more or less working keyboard. The second disk drive also is inoperative. It basically functions, but it's having trouble reading disks. So I will swap that out too, and we'll see if we can finally get this computer back to a point where it's more or less kind of working again. And as luck would have it, I just happened to acquire a brand new and pretty minty fresh looking Texas Peripherals disk drive. So in order to kind of eliminate everything in one fell swoop, I'm just going to swap out the drive for drive 2 that was not working for me with the original drive. So I've got, once again, new DOS booted up. I'm going to shaky cam it here and do a directory of drive 1. And success! Let's see if we can just run Pac-Man here off of drive 1. Sorry for the bizarre sideways camera, but okay, there we go, and we've loaded into Pac-Man. So with that, we have kind of arrived at an interesting point in this particular project, and that is I have fixed all of the things that were wrong with this computer when it got to me. And what remains is only the much more tragic damage that I did to this computer immediately after it got to me, which is, but of course, the damage to the picture tube that I caused, the original picture tube. However, fixing that and doing a tube swap on the original, getting the original one out of there and getting a new one in, I'm going to save that for a separate video. So this video has gotten quite long enough. I'm going to cut it here. Hopefully you found it interesting. It was a bit of a journey. I did not expect really even that I was going to make a video about this machine, and then sadly starting with myself breaking it and then discovering a number of things that actually did need fixing. It became quite a journey. So yeah, I'm just happy that it is working as much as it is. I thought the keyboard might be a goner, and hopefully the tube swap goes well as well. We will see in the next one. Again, hopefully you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one.